Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 192. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess. If you are new here, I am the host of this show, founder of Wander Wealthy, and business coach for all the money coaches, financial coaches, wealth coaches, and any other coaches who have to talk about money on a regular basis. All of you out in the world looking to build your thriving coaching business and be the best coach out there. This podcast is built so that you can feel supported in not only the process of building your coaching business, from creating your offer to learning about sales to mastering your marketing, but also so that you can really learn what it takes to be the best coach and how to truly deliver a life-changing and unforgettable client experience for your money coaching clients. And I'm super excited because this week's show is going to kind of bring those two together. Typically, we'll do an episode that's more focused on the back end, the kind of doing business part, and then we'll do a show that's more focused on delivering your coaching and being an awesome coach. And this week, because the topic is about why less is more in your financial coaching business, I'm going to do kind of like a two-parter. It's going to all be in this episode, but the first half, we're really going to focus on keeping things simple in your business operations. Why less is more in that case. We're going to talk about stuck states and how the more is more concept can get us into those stuck states, and it can be really hard to get out. We're going to talk about the rule of 4 ones to help you simplify your business operations. And I'm going to share why I keep things simple when I teach you about building your business in the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, why I personally keep things simple in that regard. Then when we talk about doing the coaching, in the second half of this episode, you're going to learn about why it's important to keep your process or your signature framework super simple for your clients. Also, why when you start to go into delivering that through your curriculum or your calls, your one-on-one coaching calls, why it's unnecessary to put more and more and more and more into them. And then we're also going to talk about providing your clients with clear yet minimal options instead of just the tons and tons of different choose their own adventures that they could go down. Why it's way more effective to keep it simple. So that's something that you can get excited about for this episode. But before we dive in, I want to share about this week's sponsor, which is the Wealthy Coach Blueprint. Now, if you are new here, you haven't heard about this. If you aren't new here, I am going to be sharing a couple of experiences from past and current clients going through the blueprint, what they've been able to achieve that I am super excited about. But the Wealthy Coach Blueprint is my 12-week business building program for new, aspiring, or current money coaches who might be in a little bit of a frustration or a plateau. What the blueprint is all about is helping you to build a structurally sound money coaching business that you can truly grow and scale over time. But I wanted to share just a couple of snippets of things that I get to witness with the current money coaches and past money coaches who have gone through or are going through the program. So Tara, upon launch, booked immediately 6 sales calls, and she actually got her first 2 clients in just 1 weekend. She asked me like 2 days before her first sales call, or before her launch, I think, if I had ever worked with anyone who didn't make a sale going through the Wealthy Coach Blueprint. And I had told her, no, I hadn't. I've only had 1 client who didn't want to sell. But other than that, anyone who wanted to make a sale going through the blueprint made a sale. And then all of a sudden she got 2. She's actually now gotten to a place where she's en route, I don't know, but she's on a journey to completely recoup her investment in the blueprint. And now she has a money coaching business. And she started with having no business at all. So super excited for her. Erin launched her coaching program while transitioning to being a full-time RVer. Now she is on a 2-year journey with her husband and her pup, and she has people finding her program and consistently signing up to work with her as she has gone through the transition of building her own coaching business and taking her life on the road and living a more nomadic and digital life. And it's so exciting to see that this business that she's built for herself has also been able to support her in doing things that she otherwise would have never imagined doing. Tiana just launched her program with so much success. She had so many potential clients booking a discovery call with her, and she's still got so many to go. But her biggest concern, like so many money coaches have, was the price point. And we had a little pep talk before, I think it was her second sales call for this big launch, talking about the price. And I told her what I tell all of my clients: assume your client is ready and willing to pay. Never assume that they're going to have objections. Just always go into the call assuming they're ready and they want and they can afford to purchase the program. When she got off that call, she booked her first ever paid in full client. And in that day, she had a 100% sign-on rate with 0 objections to her program. So excited for her. She still has so many of those sales calls to go. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, and she is even 100% confident that she's going to get to her booked out status for her beta launch. And she's going to be recouping her investment in the Wealthy Coach Blueprint and continue to just thrive onwards and upwards. So that is a little taste of what you can experience if you go through the Wealthy Coach Blueprint. And we're currently in the place with this round that is most exciting for me, because the coaches going through the blueprint are now putting their programs together and launching it to the world. And this is where we all get to celebrate their success. This is why I do what I do. These are the results that I fight for in my business, is to get my clients results. And so I'm super excited and celebrating right along with them. If you want to learn a little bit more about the blueprint, you can head to wanderwealthy.com/apply. And I definitely encourage you to scroll all the way down to the bottom of that page and get yourself on the wait list. I have limited spots for January of 2021, and we are going to book out. So go ahead and get on the wait list. That way you will be the first to know when my calendar opens up for enrollment, which is going to be happening in less than a month. You can be one of the first ones on my calendar so that you can grab your spot. They are first come, first serve. So we just want to make sure that if you're ready and if you want this and you want to give yourself and your business this present for the holidays and really use 2021 to kickstart the business of your dreams, then again, head to wanderwealthy.com/apply, jump on the wait list, and we will be in touch. All right, let's get down to business. So I first wanted to start out talking about this less is more idea and really just relate it to how I think a lot of us naturally think about value for what you pay for. And I think this is especially prominent for money coaches, because the money coach, financial coaches of the world were much more likely to be people who have this concept of frugality top of mind, right? When we think about spending our money, we want to get the most bang for our buck. But sometimes, as people who are a bit more frugally minded, we can fall into I don't want to call it a trap, but we can fall into the mindset of more is more, even if it's less quality, right? As long as it's more quantity, then we really feel like we're getting what we're paying for. But we also know, right? Conceptually, we understand that it's better to pay for higher quality because it could be more durable, it could be more effective, whatever it is. But naturally, we kind of deal with this fight internally because we've come up in, some of the most prominent decades of consumerism and consumerist society. And, even looking at what you can get for $100 by going to stores that are more fast fashion oriented, or just, can produce things for cheaper. We're now into the mentality that we deserve to get more for the dollar that we paid. But as business people, and especially as like sole business owners and operators, that's not always effective for us to even be thinking about because, first of all, we aren't huge corporate conglomerates that can create money coaching for pennies on the dollar. We are people who need to be quality first, quantity less. And that's where we really need to think about this less is more mentality and make sure that we're integrating it not only in our schedules and how we manage our time and do business, but also how we help our clients understand the concept and think about the way that we deliver for our clients. And that's why I wanted to touch on both of these aspects today. Okay, so with that kind of setup, I suppose, I want to start going into the business building aspect first of all, because so many coaches, and I think anybody who's getting started in the online space, developing a service-based business, we look around at what everyone else is doing and we go, okay, noted. I should be on Instagram. I should be on Facebook. I should be on Tumblr and SoundCloud. And I'm just like throwing random words out there. But we think, okay, I have to have a blog. I have to have a podcast. I have to have a YouTube channel. I have to create 100,000 freebies. I have to create a bunch of different programs at different price points so I can make sure to sell and make money and serve all people at all levels. And imagining this, all of a sudden what this ultimately leads to is overwhelm. And overwhelm is an interesting place to be because what overwhelm actually is, in neurolinguistic programming, we call this a stuck state. There's a lot of other stuck states, and what a stuck state is a state of being where you can't move forward. And other stuck states are things like apathy or hopelessness, where you just, you don't move forward because you don't think there's a point to it. Overwhelm is where you desperately want to move forward, but you have so many options available and so many things you think you have to do that you end up doing nothing. And this happens to so many business owners because business feels really complicated when you first get started, especially when you're doing it by yourself, which is why it's so important for me to provide the Wealthy Coach Blueprint to new and even current money coaches, because even just having someone else to build your business with and have a mentor to say, hey, which way should I go? I have all of these options. Which one should I focus on? Like, even the simplicity of having someone else say, focus on this one thing, can just release that overwhelm and even eliminate it from happening. So if there's one reason and one reason only to follow the less is more idea when it comes to building your business and kind of determining how to market and sell and even what to offer, remember that keeping it simple is doing a service for yourself as a sole business owner who is probably in charge of everything right now. Like, the less plates that you can have spinning in the air, the better for you. It'll keep your focus, it'll keep your energy intact and not have it dissipate across all these different platforms and all these different offers and trying to please everyone. I made a comparison to a client recently, and then I was like, I have to share this on Instagram. So I did a story about it, but I have to keep it here now because it's going to be permanently out in the interwebs through this podcast. You want to really think about when you're thinking about, what should I be doing on a day-to-day basis in my business? You want to remember that when you start thinking about adding more things to your plate, when you start thinking about, okay, I'm marketing on Instagram, but maybe I should also be on Facebook, and maybe I should also start a podcast and a YouTube channel. Like, the more pieces you add, the more dispersed your energy becomes. And we know that where focus goes, energy flows, right? And so if you're focusing on just one or two things, your focus goes there, your energy goes there. It all feels very contained and manageable. But the second you start adding things, the more you start to slice up that focus and thus that energy. And the more you're going to feel naturally depleted, or like you can't really put as much energy to each of the things when all of these things that you're doing need lots and lots of your energy and focus. So I want you to always ask yourself, am I putting my focus and my energy through a strainer and letting it just like go everywhere? Or am I putting it through a funnel and really funneling it into like 1 to 2 things? And that actually gets me into the second thing I wanted to share with you today, which is how to keep building a business fairly simple. And this is ultimately what I have my money coaches do when they go through the Wealthy Coach Blueprint. And I've kind of distilled it down to the rule of 4 ones. Okay. So this is especially if you are just starting out, or if you're like feeling very burnt out and you're like the frizzled ends of your hair right before you need a haircut, give yourself a haircut and restart with the rule of 4 ones. So the first one is to focus on one specific niche market. And I know that this is hard because I know you want to help everyone, but the more you can focus on one specific niche market, the more easy it is for you to speak directly to them. You know exactly where to show up. You know what they need. You know what they want. You can use their language. It just makes everything else so much easier. And I know I sound like a broken record here because I know I've created tons of podcasts talking about the importance of this, but pick one. I don't even care. It's not them and these other people. It's one. And most likely the other people will flood in anyway because they'll be like, whoa, you're saying some really cool stuff here. I really resonate with this, even though I'm not, X, Y, or Z that you say you work with, but can you still help me? And if you can, of course you can. But when it comes to your marketing, when it comes to your offer creation, you got to focus on one specific niche market. So that's the first one of 4. The second one of 4 is coming up with one high-touch, life-changing program for that market. This is very difficult, especially when you've created something and it's not selling and you're like, well, maybe my market just doesn't want to pay me for a high touch program. Maybe I need to create a $30 per month membership for, 10 people that are going to join. And I want you to remember that you will put the same amount of energy to sell that $30 per month membership than you will to sell a $1,000 or $2,000 or $10,000 high touch program. The same amount of energy. I know it doesn't feel like it because you're like, oh, if I just put something up for $30, people are going to buy it, right? $30 is nothing. But then if people don't buy it, you're going to be like, why the heck aren't people buying it? $30 is nothing. And then you're just going to spiral. And now you've taken your energy and you put it through a strainer because now you have your awesome life-changing program and you have this $30 kind of low touch thing that ultimately you don't even know if you could get results through it, because how much are people going to be committed to doing the things they need to do to see results through a $30 membership versus a higher touch program where you're going to be able to work with them to see that change and make it happen and hold them accountable to do so, because you can put more value and energy out there because they are paying you for that. Right? This is kind of getting off topic because we're also getting into like how we value our money and our time and our energy. But when you focus it all into one high touch program that is valued and priced in the right place at the right threshold, you will also feel so much better delivering that. You'll feel valued in that delivery, and your clients, no doubt, will get much better results. The third one is one conversion mechanism. This is ultimately one way to turn your leads into clients. And the way that I teach my clients to do this is just through sales calls in the Wealthy Coach Blueprint. Because if we're doing a high touch program, the most likely we need to have a sales conversation, and most likely that's going to be getting them on the phone to really get to know them and work with them and identify if it's going to be a good fit for them. So there's lots of other conversion mechanisms that you've probably heard about and you've probably even tried. And those are things like webinars or Facebook, like 5-day challenges. And those are all great. And they can also help you, of course, get some leads in the door. But it can also be as simple as just inviting your clients to ask you more about your program and then you getting them set up on a sales call to conduct that sales call. And again, if you're starting out or if you're restructuring your program because things haven't been working in the past, I know how tempting it is for a lot of people to say, oh, I don't want to get on a phone. I don't want to do sales. Sales is icky. Sales is slimy. I want to take the easy way and just pop up a webinar that I've pre-recorded or do a challenge where I don't have to actually have real, honest, vulnerable conversations with people. And of course you want to do that because that doesn't make you face the potential of rejection. That doesn't put you in an uncomfortable spot that, you could potentially then have to have a conversation about your price point or about your experience. But the thing is, if you are naturally avoiding it, you probably need to do it. And no, these sales conversations do not have to be uncomfortable. They do not have to be icky. And the ones that I teach my clients to have aren't. They're open, they're honest, they're really an opportunity for you to show this potential client what working with you is really like. They're an opportunity for you to display that empathy and understanding because most people who are hiring a money coach have never talked to anyone about money in their life before. And so it's a really wonderful experience for you to have and for you to give someone and offer someone, but it's also an effective way to get them from a stranger who may have just potentially stumbled upon you to someone who is ready and committed and invested in really changing their life and hiring you to help facilitate that for them. Okay, so one conversion mechanism, and I definitely recommend doing it through a sales conversation. That's likely when you're just starting out going to be a sales call. Eventually and someday it can usually, happen just in the DMs too, when you build the traction and that momentum. The fourth one is one traffic source, aka one platform for you to create and connect with your ideal clients on. And I talked about this in episode 190 in the 3 C's marketing method episode, where I just talked about how wonderful social media is and certain social media platforms that allow you to both create content that's really effective and resonates with your ideal clients, but also allows you to directly connect with your ideal clients. Go out, find them, connect with them, and start having conversations. So I like to recommend a traffic source like social media, like using Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, maybe TikTok for those who know their ideal clients are on TikTok. The other types of traffic sources, of course, are through just natural organic search. So people using Google to stumble upon either a podcast or a blog. And also organic search does also exist through Pinterest as well as through YouTube. But again, they're going to have to search through YouTube, find your content, but then it's a little bit harder to connect with them unless you're just connecting in the comments of your content. It's harder to find your ideal clients' profiles through YouTube. Pinterest, they search through Pinterest, but then they find your content, which is likely linked from a blog or a podcast, which again, it's harder for you to go out and find your ideal clients that way using search in that regard. So that's again why I really like the platforms that are social based, but you can also create content on. So those are the 4 ones, and that is the rule of 4 ones, is to stick to one of each of those and really just, again, focus on that. That will help you not get wrapped up in the overwhelm and allow you to put your energy and focus through a funnel instead of a strainer. The last thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to business building is just why I create my programs to teach about business building. I create them to be super simple. And why you might think, if you read through the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, you might go, oh, well, this seems so simple. And that's a good thing for me. Honestly, I feel excited about that. And here's the reason, because I know that if I made it so dense and so complex, and I made it really complex so that I felt good about myself, of being like, okay, now I feel like I've put enough value in that they're willing to pay for it, or now I'm showcasing how smart I am, so now I can teach them about all these additional things even though they don't really need it, but like that makes me feel good enough to be able to sell it. If I did that, I know that you wouldn't actually go through the program and finish it, right? If I put so much extra stuff in it, it's either going to be too much of a commitment for you to show up and do and go through, that you're going to be like, oh, this is just so much information. I don't even, like, maybe I'm overwhelming you on one end. Maybe I'm making it too complicated, or maybe you just like you're not that committed to put in that much time to take in that much information. And so that's a really interesting thing to think about for your own program, but also why I'm excited if you look at my program and you go, oh, this seems like a very simple process. I definitely know that with your guidance, I could purchase this. I'm going to make the investment and I'm going to do everything you say, because also I see, what you've created for other people, and I know you're going to help me get the same results or better, right? I want to keep my program simple so that you'll actually do it, because the opposite of that is, well, there's lots of opposites, but the thing that I would hate the most is for you to pay me to sign up for the Wealthy Coach Blueprint and then for you to not actually do anything or get halfway through and give up, which is what most online programs do. I think it's just natural for us as humans too, to like get halfway through and then decide, either we're not going to implement it or we're just not going to do it, or, we forgot about it, something else came up. And that's just I'm not in the business or the headspace to want to do that. Like, I couldn't stand that if I knew that clients didn't finish my program. And so for me, it's hard, right? It's hard to not put more and more and more into it so that I feel good about myself, and so that I feel like, okay, now it's worth the price, because I already know that it's actually worth more the less complex and the less dense I make the program, because it's way more likely that you're actually going to do something if I keep it simple. So I know it seems counterintuitive, but that's exactly how I want you to think about your program as well. But also, the reason I put this in the business building is because obviously my program is focused on helping you build a business in a simple and streamlined way, where you might think, well, this is too simple, there has to be more to it. And I say, no, there isn't more to it, because I know as long as you focus on these things, you're going to get the results, instead of overwhelming you with all the additional things that, yeah, you could be doing, but then it would be a big waste of time and money, because it's way too much for all of us to be spinning. We can't spin all those plates at once, okay? So with that said, we're going to go into part 2 of this episode, which is about delivering your coaching. And the first one that I wanted to focus on is keeping your process of your program simple. Kind of as I was just talking about, like how I try to keep my program as simple as possible in all these ways. This is something you can do as well. Keeping your process, the steps that you take your clients through, your signature framework, super simple is such a good thing. So many of my clients, while we're working on building their program, they have this fear that it's going to be too easy for their clients, and their clients are going to think that they've wasted their money if it's that easy. But we really have to work to reframe this, because first of all, if it were so easy, right? If it really were just to take the 5 steps that you have your clients do to implement it, and so if it were so easy that it's not worth paying for, why aren't your clients doing it yet? And don't discount your knowledge and habits that you've already learned and developed. Just because it seems simple for you, it might not actually be as simple for your clients. But even so, even if it is just super simple, again, you have to ask yourself, well, then why don't my clients have the results? Probably because they don't have the awareness or understanding about how to put the puzzle pieces together. Perhaps they believe it needs to be harder. And so then they make it harder for themselves. And they need you to tell them that it doesn't have to be hard and that it can be easy. You see, we always get ourselves into these own little self-sabotaging loops where you think business needs to be harder, and I'm telling you as a coach, no, it doesn't have to be that hard. And then you create a simple money coaching program for your clients, and they think, well, there's got to be more to this. It's got to be harder than this. And you're like, nope, it really can be just this easy. But we almost need to pay someone to tell us that and hold us to it. But that gets me to the second thing here, which is that you need to make the program simple so that they'll actually do it. Just like I need to make it simple so that you'll actually do it. You need to make managing money simple so that your clients will actually manage their money. Because overcomplicating it will and could ultimately lead your clients to just being confused or overwhelmed and get into that stuck state where they don't know what to do, so they just don't take any action. And instead, what you're going to do is simplify it so that they'll actually do it, and it'll be sustainable so they can continue to do it over and over again. Because we know that finance is not a one and done thing. You don't pay for a money coach, solve all your money problems, and then it's not like you have no problems that ever come up again. You have to develop the habits, the behavior, do that, and still there's going to be things that pop up that you're going to have to navigate around. So as the money coach, you want to help your client understand that, yes, it can be simple, and keep it simple for them so they'll actually do it and stick to it. And lastly, the truth is that people don't necessarily value simplicity less. In fact, they usually value it more, right? If it's simple enough that they will actually implement it and then actually get results, that's worth way more than creating something so overcomplicated and dense with information that causes people not to do anything and thus not get results. So if you can keep something simple and promise me results, I would way rather pay for that, right? We love convenience. So I would way rather pay for that convenience to get what I ultimately want than pay more to have to do more or have to parse through more information or have to spend more time and then get less promising results. So keep that in mind, especially as you think about like, what is my step-by-step process? What is my signature framework that I want to take my clients through? Know that it is safe for it to be simple, and it almost should be, so they'll actually do it. The second thing I wanted to touch on when it comes to coaching is that more is not more. Also, when it comes to teaching on the materials, teaching on the steps of your program, right? If you're like creating video lessons or PDFs or audio lessons, filling the time just to try to make it feel more sufficient, right? Like if you could deliver something in 10 minutes, but then you stretch it out to 20 minutes kind of thing. Like packing your program with either just time filling stuff or packing your program with just like more information than is necessary. So that's on one hand. And also in your coaching sessions, when you get on the phone and you work one-on-one with your client and you realize, oh, we could do this. Like we got to the goal of this coaching session in 40 minutes. Should we really fill up the 60-minute slot just so my client really feels like they're getting their dollar's worth? Well, isn't their dollars worth the results they get in their life, not necessarily how much time they get of you? That's where we have to start changing that perspective there, okay? Because, again, the more information, the more even just time we fill from teaching in our programs, the more we can get our clients into overwhelm. I always love to come back to this age-old saying, I have no idea where it came from, but information does not create transformation without implementation, right? So we could pack our program with tons and tons of information. We could fill the time so that it feels substantial on our end so that we feel like, okay, now it's good enough that they will pay $1,000 for it. But information doesn't do anything. And if you're providing far too much of it, that can actually make your program less effective. So when we think about this, I want you to stick to the KISS method, right? Keep it simple, silly. If you can get to the point in 10 minutes, keep it that way. Even though you think you need to provide 90 hours of material because that's how everyone else markets their program, we have to recognize that people don't actually want more of your time. They just want the answer. They want to know that it's easy and they want to implement it and get the results. So this is difficult, I know, because we have to suspend our reality, our unconscious belief that more is more, and remember that actually more effective content that might be less time and less material is more. Right? Less is more in that regard. Higher quality, less quantity. We do not need to provide more time bang for the buck. We need to provide more effective material bang for the buck. And if that means it's 1 page instead of 17 pages, that's a win. Allow yourself that. Remember that when it comes to creating your program, when it comes to having coaching calls, and of course, when it comes to literally anything else in your life, even when you're shopping out in the stores and thinking about what to buy. So, like I said, the same goes for these coaching calls. If your client gets to the breakthrough point within 30 minutes, even though you always promise 60-minute calls and there's just no real reason to keep it going, then give them those 30 minutes back and say, okay, I want you for the remaining 30 minutes to take this offline and go and actually implement it. Since I know you've blocked out the time, I want you to take the remaining 30 minutes and do your homework right now instead of wait until the last minute, because we know that's also a thing that we all do. So really understanding that you're not selling your time when you're selling a program. You're selling the end result. And that's what you need to remind yourself. And you can also help your client understand that too, if you sense that they're kind of getting the bang for the buck mentality and really the more is more mentality. Lastly, remember, we will pay an extra $1 for milk if we can get it delivered to us without us having to go out and get it at the store, and we can get it within the next hour. It's simpler and it's way more convenient. We will pay more for the same, or even, for putting in less effort. So people pay for simplicity and convenience. Don't forget that. The third thing I wanted to share when it comes to delivering on your coaching is keeping your options simple as well. When it comes to money coaching, there's a lot of different ways to slice a block of cheese, right? If you want to get the result of bite-sized cheese, there's a lot of different ways to slice it. And so you might be working with a client and you could have them do the cash envelope method for budgeting. You could have them do the Every Dollar app for budgeting. You could have them do their own Excel spreadsheet for budgeting. You could have them do the infamous anti-budget that I used to always talk about on this podcast. There's a lot of different apps, budgeting methods, so many choices that naturally your client has probably, maybe in the past, even looked through themselves and tried and failed. And then just because there were more options, they thought, okay, I'll just try the next one. And so as a coach, I think it's really important to, even though you could just say, oh, here's all the options, choose one, you want to, again, keep things simple for your client so they don't get overwhelmed. So I always like to say, it's okay to provide options, but provide as little options as possible And obviously the most appropriate ones for your client, understanding their situation. So instead of providing them with 5 different budgeting options, understanding your client, their situation, where they're coming from, what works for them, what their lifestyle is like, distill it down to the 2 most effective, but then you can give them the option of the 2. And that way they don't get into the analysis paralysis, right? They don't put themselves in a stuck state. You're not putting them in a stuck state by giving them so much options. And you're playing the role as the coach of, the guidance offerer and the person who says, these are both going to be effective for you. Pick the right one and go with it, and help them make a decision. And then you can always course correct if that one doesn't work out to the other one. But keep it simple and keep it very clear and specific. That's where you find yourself being super effective in your coaching, because you can help your clients make decisions. And what I always like to say is fail fast in order to succeed faster. So those are the details. There's a lot of different things that we touched on, from building your business to also offering your coaching, but it all distills down to this concept of less is more. And I think ultimately how difficult it can be as money coaches who are naturally probably very frugal minded, who are always looking for a good deal, to remember that just because it's a good deal doesn't actually mean that it's the most effective or it's the best. And so if you can keep that in mind, I think it'll change the way that you do your business. It'll allow you to have more time back in your life. It'll help you be a better coach. It'll help you value your time and your coaching offering better. And it can change so much for you. And that's why I think it is so important, especially for financial coaches, to remember why less is more in your financial coaching business. So I'd love to hear from you. What sort of takeaways did you get from this episode? Send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Tess_Wicks. That's TESS_WICKS. Just follow me, send me a DM, let's chat about it. If you have any questions about the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, I talked about it quite a bit in this episode. I'd love to talk to you there as well. Send me a DM, and don't forget you can grab your copy of the blueprint and jump on the waitlist by going to wanderwealthy.com/apply. I cannot wait to chat with so many of you and help you build your coaching business in 2021. It's going to be amazing. And one last thing, if you want to check out the show notes of this week's episode, head to wanderwealthypodcast.com/podcast/episode 192. And that's a wrap for me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, I hope you wander wealthy.